In the Russian army, corpses are class 200 in the logistic chain going backwards. It's class 100 are wounded, class 200 are the dead, are KIA. And he was complaining that they had to drive around with their class 200 on top of the tank for a week. For like a week, they have guys cooking on the grating of the engine. And he was complaining on the phone about that. But so now they're just leaving their guys to fertilize China's wheat, apparently. And a crazy Irish member of the European Parliament lecturing a Bulgarian that NATO's never done anything. Back in a second, it's AM 770 KTTH, friends. It's here. It's episode 7000 of British War Correspondents Are Better Than Americans.
Now, it's too unpleasant, really, to show on camera, but behind me in this trench system is the body of a dead Russian soldier, mostly buried by dirt, his name tag and his face still visible.
Yeah, you're not going to get Scott Pelley within 10 miles of a rotting corpse. And this is, by the way, this is from an area that the Russians occupied for several weeks outside of the city of Kharkiv. When you print the world's digital reserve currency, two things happen. Number one, you're the most counterfeited currency on earth. Okay, the United States, it flat out is. The Iranians make hundreds very well. The North Koreans lowball us, and they make 20s. And it's estimated, I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but it's estimated that at any one time in certain parts of the world, 10 to 20% of the currency out there is counterfeit. We don't see that here in the U.S. a lot. But so anyway, when you print the money, you're fresh out of excuses. You cannot blame external forces for the inflation. And that's just that. And here we are, we're coming off, 2 years of just, 3 shifts at the U.S. Mint printing money and sending it out in the form of checks. And this was predicted at the time. But when the first stimulus went out in 2021, and I don't care whether it's Trump or Biden or Obama, you give people free money instead of a limited unemployment check or something. This is what's going to happen. And it's all a symptom of running a pandemic badly. So we'll get to that here in a second, because a final report card by University of Chicago economists and others, their final report card about the last 2 years is based on the big picture. And that's not just cases or even fatalities. It's how did your schools do? How did your state's economy do? How did your unemployment do? And also, what about dead people? Because we don't shut the economy down because highways are deadly. Do we? And so anyway, it's called the Center for the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. And they use available public data. And they said what I've been sensing and occasionally saying for 2 years. And you all know that that civilization, our society, is a big organism. It's not just one thing. And if the thumb on the right hand is sore, you don't sit the entire thing down in a Barca lounger and ice it and not go to work, not go to the doctor because you're vomiting blood or what to the fuel corn, not feed corn. So how can I not? Is this information passed on from other folks? This is from yesterday because, again, I'm saying you make your own decision. Me, I don't put ethanol gas in my automobile. For high-octane leaded and unleaded pump gas fuel, search VP Fuels. Stations are few, but in Tacoma, Seattle, etc. 50, and Mr. Sarah in Yelm has a good point. 15% ethanol means more corn for fuel. Is this a good idea with a pending food shortage? And I don't, because they don't make ethanol out of feed corn, but it means that more acreage for a longer time is going to be dedicated to the fuel corn, not feed corn. So how can I not? I believe down in, as you call it, Fife, you can still get non-ethanol gas. I buy it for my yard equipment and ATV. I haven't bought it since last fall. And then also further down here, someone says the new Safeway in Puyallup. So if you're going up to 512, look into that. So anyway, good for Safe Away on that one. And more. In case you're wondering, or you don't have the internets, it's cold this morning, and there may be more precipitation later on this afternoon. And I know that at about 1:55, I got a text from someone who, as the crow flies, about 2 miles from my house, and the text was, who ordered up this snow? And about 5 minutes later, I started seeing the snowflakes, and then it got pretty heavy, but it was not freezing. But anyway, it's just neat to see. And I shot a video of it and sent it to a friend in L.A. And I said, "How's your April?" Because right now it's like 102, and there's fires all over the place. But it was snowing in the South Sound, and it may do it again today. It'll be raining, and this is the entire point of April, is my understanding. Before I forget this, we'll talk about Biden not only calling Putin a dictator, which is news to nobody, but saying that genocide is happening. And this great piece of audio that I just love, that a member of the European Parliament, which is a thing, an Irish woman, not Northern Ireland, but from neutral Ireland, Republic of Ireland, neutral for over 100 years, and she's denouncing NATO, and the European Parliament is in Strasbourg, France, and she's lecturing a Bulgarian guy about NATO. But we'll get to that. And DTH Brian Suits here. When we come back, the latest out of Ukraine. And what if he's a genocidal dictator? I mean, what do you do then? We'll be back right after this. It's the Brian Suits Show. Let's get you to work. All right, quick situational awareness over the skies of Central Europe, where it is currently 1536 over Poland. Right now, and a couple hours ago, the Prime Minister of Sweden announced that they are applying for NATO membership. And what a coincidence. There's our old friend, a Gulfstream 4 owned by the Swedish Air Force, the Sverige Flygvapnet. It is SVF 645. It's a electronic intelligence Gulfstream 4 that Sweden bought and modified, and it's flying up and down the Polish border, looking into Ukraine and Belarus. And then our old friend Red Eye 6, a E8 J-Stars, is there. And so it appears a couple things. I can only be objective about this stuff. I do not believe from what I've seen that anything but white phosphorus used for smoke or whatever was used in Mariupol. We have that too. That's not a chemical weapon. It's a incendiary. It's not supposed to be used for that, but it's used for that. Its primary purpose in the American military is to create white smoke. Is to either obscure an objective, obscure your position, or mark a target or something like that for close air support. How the Russians use it, I can't speak for them. I'm going to take a wild stab and say they're trying to burn human beings. But that's not chemical warfare, and so I take with a huge grain of salt. I agree. If this marks a pivot, and the new general in charge has said, slime them, bring out the chemical weapons, that's a big deal. But I mean, I also know what CNN doesn't know, and that is, yes, even the Russians feel like chemical weapons are in many ways more trouble than they're worth. Because what you've effectively done is make the area unoccupiable for your own side. Then secondly, some news today, information that I see, it does appear that there's a large surrender of Ukrainian forces because they're out of ammo. They can't be resupplied in the city of Mariupol on the Sea of Azov, there, the minor sea off the Black Sea. Port city, the Russians want this very badly. Hundreds of thousands of people in there. Mayor said yesterday, probably 20 or 30,000 dead just from sheer targeting of civilian areas. Gigantic crime scene for the International Criminal Tribunal. They won't be roping it off though. But it does appear there's enough evidence on in Telegram feeds on the Russian side that I'm convinced that they're correct. Several hundred of the Ukrainian Marines, because they're out of ammo, have surrendered. And so I would probably remind anyone on Russian Telegram, now that you're showing these guys alive and apparently healthy and unarmed, you do understand you're under an obligation to treat them as POWs. So if they wind up face down in the Black Sea, I think people should sit up to take notice. But anyway, I still see a 48-hour headline about suspected chemical weapons. Well, white phosphorus is a chemical, but is it a chemical weapon? Well, don't stand over it and breathe it, and whatever you do, don't get under it when it's used. But it's I don't see evidence that I would call chemical warfare there, and I am seeing evidence that the Russians have their first big victory in this, besides taking a nuclear power plant on the Dnieper River. All right, back in a second. AM 770 KTTH, latest on Ukraine. And these two surprising countries that are good at cross-country skiing and ski jumping want to join NATO. The Biden genocide, Jen Psaki, I'll finally have that audio. And a crazy Irish member of the European Parliament lecturing a Bulgarian that NATO's never done anything. Back in a second. It's AM 770 KTTH, friends. It's here. It's episode 7000 of British War Correspondents Are Better Than Americans.
Now, it's too unpleasant really to show on camera, but behind me in this trench system is the body of a dead Russian soldier, mostly buried by dirt, his name tag and his face still visible.
Yeah, you're not going to get Scott Pelley within 10 miles of a rotting corpse. And this is, by the way, this is from an area that the Russians occupied for several weeks outside of the city of Kharkiv. And when it was time to retrograde, get out and go back into Russia and reorganize for invasion from the East 2.0, they left their buddy behind. Whoever they were, they didn't look around for their own dad. They just said, "Burp, he's garbage," and all that. But then again, we heard those phone recordings a couple of weeks ago of one Russian commander complaining to his buddy about after he had lost his guys, because in the Russian army, corpses are class 200. In the logistic chain going backwards, it's class 100 are wounded, class 200 are the dead, are KIA. And he was complaining that they had to drive around with their class 200 on top of the tank for a week. For like a week, they have guys cooking on the grating of the engine, and he was complaining on the phone about that. But so now they're just leaving their guys to fertilize China's wheat. Apparently.